Hey guys, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here, and today I'm going to be talking about Parler, QAnon, the Capitol breach, and the curious Russian influence that really nobody is actually talking about. And I think this is beyond important. Now, if you follow me or you regularly watch or listen to my podcasts and my videos and all of that, you know that I'm not actually prone to hyperbole. I like to lay out this argument, do my homework and all of that, let you guys decide, and plenty of people tell me I'm an idiot, plenty of people have agreed, but I think the title for this video or podcast is actually accurate. I don't think it's hyperbole, so bear with me as I lay all of this out. Now, I found this actually really interesting, but we've had two stories in the last 24 hours, one of which I actually verified myself along with other cybersecurity researchers and professionals, that involves the entire Capitol mess. But curiously, both of these new stories also involve Russia in some way, shape, or form. Now, first up is Parler. And as you probably already know, Parler was taken offline by Apple and Google initially when they removed basically the Parler app from their respective app stores. But Amazon then shut down their hosting because Amazon was providing infrastructure for Parler. All of Parler's data was exfiltrated prior to the shutdown, and I've done pieces on that already. We'll get to that in a bit. But yesterday, on January 17th, that was Sunday, Parler came back online with just a very basic website, nothing for their users, but a basic website that essentially said that they're alive and they're looking to get back up and running again, and on and on and on. But here's the thing. Being curious and a nerd, I quickly ran what is called an NS lookup on Parler.com, and it actually resolved to a content delivery network, or CDN, provider known as DDoS Guard, or DDoS-Guard. I then also ran a quick trace route to Parler.com, just again, very easy things that anybody can do here, from my IP based in Chicago. And before it basically got to Parler, or at least the timeout in the hops, I ended up hitting a server in Sweden as I was trying to get to Parler. Now, DDoS Guard is a CDN, content delivery network, so I know they'll be all over the world, but usually CDNs will try to keep you within the country of the domain you're trying to get to. Not always, but it was a really odd hop to see when I was looking up the routing here, and so we're going to see where Parler ends up, but I think that's interesting. So I started to do my homework on DDoS Guard, or DDoS Guard. Their website contact info gives them an address in Scotland, but their site is both in English and Russian. So then, obviously, I start researching them for what I am laying out right here. And on January 5th, cybersecurity researcher and reporter Brian Krebs, who we should all be reading, wrote an article called "Hamas May Be a Threat to 8chan, QAnon Online." And to quote Krebs on Security, Brian Krebs, and I quote, "In October 2020, Krebs on Security looked at how a web of sites connected to conspiracy theory movements, QAnon and 8chan, were being kept online by DDoS Guard, a dodgy Russian firm that also hosts the official site for the terrorist group Hamas. New research shows DDoS Guard relies on data centers provided by a US-based publicly traded company, which experts say could be exposed to civil and criminal liabilities as a result of DDoS Guard's business with Hamas." Yes, the same provider that is offering the content delivery network service for Parler is also hosting a registered terrorist organization, at least registered terrorist here in the United States. Now, because Hamas is considered a terrorist organization, the US government could cut them off by killing DDoS Guard's ability to act as their CDN, which would impact numerous QAnon conspiracy sites as well. We have a serious problem here, and I've talked about this before, with the proliferation of demonstrably false news being put out there daily, and we have this QAnon conspiracy theories that are just literally tearing families apart as it continues to spread, as we saw in the Capitol riot, as many people were turning in their family members on this, not to mention being a driving force, again, behind the attack on the Capitol. So this is absolutely a very serious issue. And so, why is a Russian shell company providing infrastructure delivery networks for Americans' extremism? That's a question. Why are they delivering basically infrastructure or providing infrastructure for America's extremists' websites? In another article, basically around this time by The Guardian, entitled "Far-Right Website 8kun Loses Internet Service Protection Following Capitol Attack," we learned more about who is behind DDoS Guard. And to quote, DDoS Guard was registered under a limited partnership, a financial structure in Scotland that allows non-residents to create companies with very little scrutiny on 24 November 2017 by Alexei Lechayev, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, and Evgeny Marchenko, two Russian businessmen who remain owners of the company. Their partnership under which DDoS Guard is registered is called Cognitive Cloud, and it is listed at an address on Edinburgh's 4th Street. I went ahead and looked them up, and sure enough, they also say that they have presence in St. Petersburg, Russia, Moscow, Hong Kong, and other countries around the world, including Los Angeles here in the United States. So that is most curious given what we know about Russian intelligence's efforts to sow fake information and discord, not just into the US, but in other countries as well. Here we have an actual content delivery network basically ensuring that these conspiracy theory websites stay up and stay online. DDoS Guard is going to mitigate attacks and threats against these websites, the QAnon websites of the world, as they are more efficiently pumping out those websites to whoever wants to go there. We could be seriously looking here at a major Russian intelligence victory. And I'm hoping we learn more about this quote-unquote shady organization that Parler is now using to deliver their website and their platform to their users as their users come back. And this also brings up another interesting point here. Their actual hosting could be sitting here in the United States, even though their CDN is owned by a Russian cutout firm, as their CDN is also, as the CDN, DDoS Guard, is also leasing servers and bandwidth from US companies like a company called CoreSite, according to Brian Krebs, and an Oregon-based company in the past known as Vanwa Tech, also reported by Brian Krebs and other sources on that as well. But I'm wondering, since they routed me sitting here in Chicago through Sweden when I tested it myself, if this is because traffic is now leaving US soil, and think about this, if traffic is leaving US soil, will the surveillance mandates for both the National Security Agency and Central Intelligence Agency, the NSA and the CIA here, kick in for Parler users that are connecting to Parler? Could we see even more surveillance of that site now? And as I mentioned, all of their data was exfiltrated, but when they come back online, I guarantee you that open unauthenticated API is going to be closed. Now, the next bit of news that I think really kind of dovetails with this, but is in a different vein, is actually coming from multiple sources, but I'm cribbing from NBC News here, who had a really solid article on this. And here's what's going on. A Pennsylvania woman accused of being one of the Capitol rioters told a former romantic partner that she planned to steal the laptop computer from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office and then sell it to Russian intelligence. We learned about this today according to court filings in the legal system that are now going after her. Now, we're talking about Riley June Williams, and she was charged with disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds with the intent to disturb a session of Congress and other charges, basically that her former romantic interest turned her in for. That's right. As I mentioned before, loved ones are turning in their people as they continue to drink this QAnon Kool-Aid. Now, Williams's ex, who was described in Special Agent Jonathan Lund's charging document as W1 or Witness 1, called the FBI and told them that she, quote, intended to send the computer device to a friend in Russia, who then planned to sell the device to the SVR, which is Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service. According to W1, and I quote, the transfer of the computer device to Russia fell through for unknown reasons, and Williams still has a computer device or destroyed it, and this is according to the document. Now, Agent Lund says that the device and circumstances of what Williams was doing remains under investigation, but Pelosi's Deputy Chief of Staff, Drew Hamill, confirmed in a tweet that Pelosi's laptop was indeed stolen from their conference room on January 6th, but that it was, quote, only used for presentations. And we hope that's true, and I hope that laptop has running full disk encryption. Now, the FBI said that they spoke with Williams's mother on Saturday, and she allegedly said, and I quote, she recognized her daughter inside the U.S. Capitol building and that her daughter had taken a sudden interest in President Trump's politics and far-right message boards. Now, Williams, who is 22, lives with her mother in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. An affidavit released by authorities included a link to a documentary about the Capitol riot that was filmed and produced by British broadcaster ITV, in which a woman basically identified as William can be seen running, quote, basically yelling, quote, upstairs, 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 and pushing people in the direction of Speaker Pelosi's office. Now, this woman, the reporter can be heard saying, was, quote, disciplined, focused, with a sense of urgency, directing people up the staircase. That was literally done on the fly as this was recorded live. Williams pushing her way and getting her way as fast as possible to Pelosi's office. Now, Williams' mother filed a suspicious person report on January 11th, so it wasn't just her ex, it was also her mother, and she filed this with the police in Harrisburg, according to the FBI, and basically that is where we're at. So this opens up so many questions, but primarily, why was this woman wanting to sell the Speaker of the House of the United States of America's laptop to Russian intelligence? Was it money? Was it something else? That is awfully specific, and she went there apparently with the goal, as recorded live by ITV and put out for the world to see. But it lends us to our second point here. It leads us to the second point. We have seen a rise in Russian influence in the extremist right in this country, as well as other places in Europe, for years, who essentially view Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, as a strong leader and somebody to be emulated. And so I went researching. And in researching this, I found article after article from basically every major publication, essentially on the extremist right's love affair with Russia. Now, consider the words, and I think he laid it out pretty well, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I skipped around with, I thought, were his most interesting quotes. But this is E.J. Dionne, and he wrote this article in 2018 in the Washington Post, and I quote, in a prescient March 2017 article in Time magazine, Alex Altman and Elizabeth Diaz detailed Russia's, quote, new alliances with leading U.S. evangelicals, lawmakers, and powerful interest groups like the NRA, or National Rifle Association, to continue. Evangelical Christians, they noted, found common ground with Putin, a strong foe of LGBTQ rights, on the basis of, quote, Moscow's nationalist and ultra-conservative push led by the Russian Orthodox Church to make the post-Soviet nation a bulwark of Christianity amid the increasing secularization of the West. Now, Dionne further went on to say, and I quote again, it's important to recognize that something more is going on here than merely a generalized effort to disrupt American and European politics. Putin is pushing in a very particular direction, a lesson that should be absorbed across our philosophical divides. The deepening ties between the Russian government and elements of the right should give pause to all conservatives whose first commitment is to democratic life. The willingness of traditionalists and gun fanatics to cultivate ties with a Russian dictator speaks of a profound alienation among many on the right from core Western values, the very values that most conservatives extol. It should bother members of the GOP that progressive writer Brian Butler was onto something when he observed recently that, quote, in many ways Moscow understood Republicans than Republicans understand themselves. Putin saw that what he and parts of the right share is hatred of liberalism. Now, I have mentioned all of this to say that I tend to be politically agnostic with all this kind of stuff. I like to say that cybersecurity and technology is agnostic to politics, even though we are clearly not immune from it. So if you're a conservative or a liberal or whatever you purport to be, I am 100% fine with all of that. But I think it's also important to understand that even though you may be a conservative or you may be a liberal, people tend to get extreme. People tend to push. And by virtue of that, we may have influence from foreign governments that I think if we are introspectively looking at, let's say, what we believe or people around us that may believe, but more on the extreme side, we may really want to face this, address this, and understand it, even if it's to say, look, I've done my homework and it's demonstrably false. Now, I bring up all of this because we also now have this divide in social media as well along political lines, but there seems to be other forces at work beyond a simple disagreement of belief. That's what I'm talking to. We have our confirmation biases, and if a foreign country is using that against us, we should be informed. If I am being influenced by, let's say, a foreign government and it comes to my intention, I want to research that, even if it's just to refute it or to say, oh my God, what have I done? I think these are things we need to understand. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to the hate mail that I'm sure to get here, because I don't think this is a Democrat versus Republican thing. This is on the edges. This is on the fringes. And those are growing. And that should be a concern, I think, to everybody that actually enjoys living in a relatively open or free society, which is what I think the United States is, as is a lot of the world, or good parts of the world anyway. So I'd love to hear this. I'm also looking forward to your hate mail, as I'm sure I'm going to get, Nick, you're an idiot, or you're whatever. But I think it's an important thing to address, and just, here I am stuck in the middle with you. So please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. And please stay away from fake news. Take care.